Hey guys, this is Brian from Dracona Studios, and today we are going to be making a guitar pick with a Nod logo cut out of it. This guy right here. So we're going to get into Maya, and first thing I'm going to do is set up a new hotkey. So we can go Window, Settings, Preferences, Hotkey Editor, and there's one command I like to use. So I'm going to call it polycut, and it's going to be poly with a lowercase, then split, uppercase S, and ring with an uppercase R, and construction history on. Okay, we are going to accept that, and we are going to set that to capital C with Alt and a sign. Okay, so what that will do so if I have a plane here, I can actually select edges and go Alt-Shift-C, and that will cut these edges in half, put a vertex in the middle. It's just part of my workflow, so I was going to show you that first, so in case you're trying to figure out what I'm doing. Okay, so let's get to it. So we'll start with the plane. I'm just going to scale that up, and we are going to go Modify, Convert Texture to Geometry. And I'm going to select my grayscale image and apply and close. Okay. So I need to press Shift P on this to remove it so it's not parented from the other object. And if I delete the history with Alt Shift D, I should be able to delete that. And we can go to Window, Rendering Editors, and Hypershade. And what we'll do next is select object with material on all the white, because we want to cut that out. Okay, and then we deleted those faces. So I'm going to change this material to Lambert. It's just a little easier to look at. And use wireframe on shaded. Okay, so from doing the operation there, we have a lot of extra vertices and edges that are really unnecessary for what we're trying to do, and it will only further complicate things if I leave it this way. So what we're going to start with, I'm just going to pull out the edit mesh area here. We're going to start with the merge vertex tool, and I'm just going to start by selecting all these in a box and just merge them up. Keep in mind this is going to be subtractive geometry, so this is what we're cutting out of the general shape of the object. So I'm not too concerned about the outer edges. I'm more interested in just maintaining this scorpion logo in the middle and the general triangle. So we can take all that, just keep merging them. I'll do the same along this side. All that can come down to here. Okay, so we have a series of quads now, if we just start deleting the triangles in the middle. And a couple extra triangles. So use the interactive split tool. And I'll do another one over here. But for interactive split, I'm going to need to change my tolerance so I'm not snapping halfway across everything. So I'm just going to put that to 0.025. And now I should be able to cut that straight across. So I'll just delete these edges, and I'll continue merging the vertexes. So there's nothing inherently wrong with using triangles and quads. I try to keep it to quads if I can. You don't want to have anything more than 4 edges per face. I will stress that this is actually quite taxing on your construction history, as you can see on the right side here. These are all the commands I've run through, and eventually this will cause a program crash if I keep just adding them up without thinking about it. So Alt-Shift-D will delete the history. And we should also make an effort to save the file. Okay, so moving on. And I'll keep coming back to that delete history because I've lost this project several times trying to make the tutorial. So I know this seems a little bit monotonous, but it definitely makes it a lot easier for your computer to process the model and what you're trying to do if you can keep everything down to quads, especially when you're dealing with booleans. Okay, so outer edge is done. Delete history, save your file, and continue working on the inside. Also, for those who, if you are using Maya, there's still modeling principles for every package here, but G is the hotkey you use to repeat the previous command. That'll save you a couple minutes. So we're just gonna get this down to quads here. These aren't critical sections, so we can merge these together just to make it, just to simplify the model. That being said, I will leave this little side triangle here. I'm going to grab these two and merge to center. So this edge is unnecessary because that's already 4 edges. I'll just delete all these edges so I can figure out better topology as I go. So we have 6 edges along this. So I'll use the interactive split tool again, and I will have to add more subdivisions along here. Now, because this will be very small, it's also not a bad idea. You can make certain parameters wider, or certain parts of the object wider, because when you get to too small of a resolution, your 3D printer can't actually make a layer that small anyways. We're just going to redraw all this with the interactive split tool. Okay, so everything has been reduced to 2 or 3 edges. I'm not too concerned about making this perfect. I would be more so if it was an animation object, or if I was trying to make something I could mirror. But this is just a plane for a boolean removal. So like before, delete your history, save your file. Okay, and so this part of the object is done, and now we can design the pick itself. And I'll actually do that with a plane. But I'm going to make the scale of this 26 by 30 mil. And I'll actually reduce this plane down to being a 4 by 4 subdivision, just to make my life easier. So I'm just starting off by scaling the object out. And I actually want to bring this down to about this size. And remember what I was saying about 0.1 of a mil being your smallest on your head? So if we actually scaled this across all three of these to 0.1, then that is the smallest our printer can make. Or my printer, at least. So that means I'll probably lose this tip. Oh, sorry, I should be in top view. There we go. So I will be losing some extra details over here. And what you can do is use that Alt-Shift-C polysplit ring command. And we're just going to widen it out a little bit. That should be good enough. And tracing along. Okay, so that should do the job. So what we'll do now is try to line up as many of these geometry marks as we can. And I'll leave that down here. So we will take our edges here on this object though. I'll go Alt-Shift-C for polysplit ring. I'll put more geometry down here. And we'll throw some extra down here. Oh, we actually didn't need this line, but that's okay. And that should be close enough for me to work with. So next we will take this face and extrude it so it's like a giant hole punch. Delete those histories, save your file, and you're going to go parent child mesh booleans difference, and that will cut your object through it. And I guess add these faces for some reason, so we'll just delete those. Now we just have our hole through the object. The reason I recommend working on a plane is because it will make things a lot cleaner for you, just for this end of the process. And we'll go back to the emerging vertexes again. See how fast that history is building up? Just always keep that in mind as you're working. So I'm going to turn that tolerance back up a little bit to 0.05. That should give me a little bit of a better snap into these actual vertices. Okay, interactive split tool. You just want to keep those quads going. Delete your history and save. Certainly not the prettiest thing the way I'm doing it, but it will do the job just fine. So you can also tell using the smooth command, or well, smooth view, which is 3 on Maya, and then what that will do is smooth the object, so you can actually see where all the breaks start happening. If I opened the file previously before I did all this, it would have been a much messier case. So what we're going to do is cut this second line in half because we want to have that merge into the topology. That'll be fine. So add a mesh merge vertex. I'm just going to start collapsing these in on themselves. Okay, so the next step we are going to take these two edges, we'll delete your history and save. And we're going to take our two edges here that go everywhere that we have this little spike in the triangle. And we're going to use those as our bridge points. Just going to make sure my divisions are set to 0. Same thing here. And same thing here. There's going to be our supports that keep it up. And I'm just going to add another piece of geometry here, because I don't really need that triangle to be cut out like that. Just to save us some headaches. That's fine. So if I just turn off the wireframe unshaded, this should be our general object, and now we're going to delete the history, save as usual, and I'm going to make a cube, which is default 1 mil, and I like my pix to be 1.14 mils. So what I can do now is just go from the side view, and we'll snap that to the top and extrude down to the bottom of that cube. Great. Now we can just do some minor tweaks. If you start noticing you're skewing out, you can actually select both vertices you need and scale them along the X and Z axis. Just zero them out, and then that should line everything up nicely. And just a little bit more cleanup on the edge, which you can just triangle out if you need. So last step before we get rid of this file and get ready for printing, which should be the spec at this point, is we're going to select the edge ring around. And on the bottom also. Great, and we will use a bevel. I'll just taper that down nicely. And that should be our object. So what I usually recommend at this point is, if this is the file you want to keep as a work file, that's great. So you can save your file now, and you can make a duplicate. Always keep your work file low poly, and you can go mesh, smooth. If you go to the options, you want to make sure you go linearly. And smooth that. Now we'll have a much nicer object. So I'll just put that on another layer and hide it. And that corner's a little sharp for my liking, so I'm just going to scale it in. Good enough, and that should be your guitar pick. So try it out. We will export to nodpick.obj. I use the Dremel DigiSlicer. Just lay that down flat. And that should be about a 4-minute print. So thanks guys, I'll run it through and we'll see how it comes out.